Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed. Yes, to a, what day is it again? I start to lose track. It is a Wednesday edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast, as we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today here in March. Yes, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Let's go up to the Commonwealth of Virginia and talk to this fine gentleman. He was just in Philadelphia, by the way. He's my great friend, Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm glad you told me what day it is. I'm still getting caught up, too. March Madness just throws me off, man.
You're absolutely right. I watched basketball, by the way. Like the minute the Super Bowl ended, I watched basketball for 5 or 6 straight weeks to get me ready for the tournament, like nonstop. I watched all these different conferences. I'm watching the best players. I'm watching this. And now I'm at the point where it's like, again, for the 90th year in a row, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to these games. How about you, Chris?
It's paralysis by analysis. I think the old saying applies here. You watch so much that, I did an interview with a young lady, a UVA student who was among like the final 3,700 people out of the 20 or some 260 million, whatever it was, brackets that were put up to have a perfect bracket. And so I have her on and I'm asking her what her secrets were. How did you get the High Point game, for example? Oh, well, when I was in Charlotte, a couple of my friends went to High Point to visit. And so I just thought that'd be pretty good. People like us, we're like, oh, yeah, well, this team can't defend the pick and roll, or this team's got great rim protectors. No, did your friends go to High Point and visit when they were in Charlotte? Hey, that's who you should pick.
Where did she screw up then? Because I know she ain't perfect either.
Well, she, as I was interviewing her, her last pick, her first pick that was wrong was the Miami-Tennessee game, and she only picked against Tennessee because some people were picking Tennessee to beat Virginia, and she was mad about that.
Oh.
There's good reasons for doing the things you do, and most of them don't work out. But that's the secret to picking these games is just no less. I think
I was a complete shock when UNC blew that game to VCU, and it was so damaging that the head basketball coach at Chapel Hill lost his job over it. I'm sorry. 5 years there, won a regular season ACC, got to a national title game in his first year. But yeah, Hubert Davis, he is out. You're a guy that covers the conference. What were your thoughts on that story?
Well, one, he only averaged 25 wins a year. So, but Carolina doesn't play basketball to average 25 wins a year.
No.
This year, they were 24-9. Obviously, if Caleb Wilson doesn't get hurt twice, they're not 24-9. They're probably still playing basketball right now. Caleb Wilson is one of the best players in the country. And they would have not lost to VCU. They wouldn't have been playing VCU. They'd have been a 2 or a 3 seed if Caleb Wilson doesn't get hurt, but he gets hurt. The problem with the Hubert Davis regime, he had that great finish in year one. They won 29 games, but they barely made the tournament that year. They got hot at the right time. They got to the championship game, and all those expectations. They're preseason number 1 the next year. Don't even make the NCAA tournament. That was the sign that maybe things weren't going in the right direction. So I'm not surprised by the decision by Carolina to get rid of him. I wasn't surprised either that they lost that game to VCU. Carolina got the 6th seed there in that 6-11 matchup because of the work that Caleb Wilson did for a lot of the season. The NCAA tournament needs to look at how they seed these teams going forward. If you're going to say, well, they had so many, quad 1 wins. Well, but how many quad 1 wins do they have with a team that is going to play in the tournament? That should be a consideration. There were a few teams that were affected by this. So, no, Carolina is going to be one of the best jobs in the country, but there's a lot of problems there that they're going to have to overcome to be able to hire somebody that the Carolina fan base expects.
Is it a top 3 job in college basketball?
Carolina has no money. That's the problem. Carolina ran a $15 million deficit, not last year because we still don't have the full numbers from last year, but 2 years ago. And that's before, and I say that because that's before they hired Bill Belichick at a tremendous amount of money to go 4-8 as the football coach, playing in front of half-empty stadiums because they were that bad. I imagine that their losses for the the current year that we're in are going to be even more substantial. They were only paying Hubert Davis $3 million a year. That's what Virginia Tech pays its coach. Virginia Tech doesn't care about basketball. So Carolina is going to have to figure it out. They got to pay Hubert Davis $5 million of a buyout to get rid of him. They're going to have to, if they want one of these top coaches that's out there, the Todd Goldens, go down the line all the way down to Dan Hurley. If they think they're going to get one of those guys, they're going to have to buy that contract out. So you're talking anywhere between $5 and $15 million more. Then you've got to pay this coach more than $3 million. Then you've got to invest NIL into your roster with a $15 million or more budget deficit. Carolina's got some issues.
But they also have Michael Jordan. Isn't that in your back pocket? Like when you think of deep pocket donors, isn't that the great trump card of them all, that you have someone like that in your back pocket?
If the deep pocket donors were already giving money, they wouldn't have run a $15 million deficit a year ago. And they wouldn't be paying their basketball coach $3 million to be the coach. The private schools that aren't competitive pay more than Carolina was paying Hubert Davis. So no, I don't know. I think that there's an issue there. What I read is when I'm hearing from other people who cover the ACC is they had to pass around the hat to hire Bill Belichick. They're having to pass around the hat again to do this thing. It's a great job. It's Carolina, but also, another factor is the Carolina family is struggling right now with what to do. They think the Dean Dome is outdated, and it probably is. It was built in the 80s. It was the first of the new generation of basketball arenas. It doesn't have luxury seats, which you charge a lot of money to the big money people for, and you make a lot of money off of. So the Carolina family's torn. Do we build a new arena off campus? They've proposed a location 4 miles off campus. The bulk of the folks who write the checks don't want that, but the people who have to balance the books say we kind of need to do that. Or do you spend a similar amount of money renovating the Dean Smith Center, which would close the Dean Smith Center down for a couple of years? Either way you go, you're kind of screwed. So I could just sum it up and say they got some problems down there.
All right. I appreciate your insight on this story, because if there is a scenario where they can't help the basketball program because they had to go and get Bill Belichick, which has been a disaster, everyone involved should be fired behind the scenes. If you screwed up the program that bad for Belichick and his stupid girlfriend to go 4-8, you do not deserve to have a job at North Carolina. I'm sorry.
The backstory to this gets a little political. The Belichick to be the coach part of this is that a Republican senator in North Carolina, U.S. senator in North Carolina, was pushing behind the scenes. What we don't think about a lot is that these schools are run by boards of visitors or boards of regents or whatever they call them in the state that they're in. And those people wield the power, right? So, and they're appointed by governors. They have to kowtow to the politicians. And so all of a sudden some guy says, hey, Bill Belichick should be our coach. And we're going to push behind the scenes for Bill Belichick to be our coach. The current AD, Bubba Cunningham, is retiring at the end of the year. It's coincidental. He's kind of aged out. He was kind of already at the end of his term anyway. But there's a lot at play here that it's kind of like down at LSU, when the governor down there said, we shouldn't be spending all that money on buyouts. And then they went and hired Lane Kiffin and give him an even bigger buyout. The politics to this is weird. The money stuff behind the scenes is something that people don't see. I could not have guessed. I don't think anybody would have guessed that Hubert Davis was making the same amount of money than as coaches at schools. They don't even care about basketball. Carolina is a marquee job. And so, this, I'll be surprised to see that if they get, one of the top tier guys just because of all this stuff behind the scenes.
It's funny, if you go back in time to that final Coach K Final Four where UNC beat them in the semifinal, then you're like, oh yeah, 4 years later, UNC fire their coach. They'd be in a disaster state right now. They can't pay anyone. And Duke would have a chance for another national title. What? There's no way you would think that, right, Chris?
Well, and another part of this that I think is interesting, because 4 years is no amount of time. Another weird part of this is, okay, so every time previous in Carolina basketball history that they had to hire a new coach, from Dean Smith in the late 90s on down, there were a number of guys who you'd say, hey, these pick among these Carolina alums to be the coach, because they had this coaching tree was out there. You had Roy Williams. The first time they couldn't lure Roy Williams in because he was at Kansas and doing really well there. They hired a guy named Matt Doherty. Doherty did well for a couple of seasons, didn't do well ultimately. Dean Smith personally goes and begs Roy Williams to come and be the coach. Roy can't turn down Dean. And Roy's there for a long, long time. Well, all these other guys, though, the other guys in the coaching tree have either retired or just not done well. And so now Hubert Davis was sort of a reach of a coach. When they hired him after Roy retired, it was a little bit of a reach to go with Hubert. But he'd been on the staff. He'd played for Dean. So, okay, that makes some sense. Now there's nobody. I mean, there's literally nobody in the Carolina family that you would say, this is the guy. There's no Roy Williams sitting around. There's no Roy Williams sitting around. So that he's the only guy who's been successful. So if you got nobody logical, they're going to have to go outside the family for the first time. I mean, think about this. Dean Smith took the job in like 60 or 61. So basically they've been playing Dean Smith basketball for 66 years. Whoever the coach is next year, they're not going to be playing Dean Smith basketball anymore.
No, and you know what? Maybe that's for good. They weren't winning anyway, where they're getting to, ACC championships and getting to the Final Four. I'm sorry. They're not.
I think that's the guy they had in place more than the style of basketball. But, Carolina's got advantages. They did spend, reportedly spent $16 million on NIL this year. They were a top 10 program, according to if you believe the lists that are out there, because none of this is official numbers, but they were a top 10 school in terms of what they spent. They had bad luck. The best player, guy's going to be either the number 1 or 2 pick in the draft, got hurt. So there's a lot going on there. I mean, there's potential. They certainly, everybody who gets a phone call, whose agent gets a phone call about this job, they're going to listen. But I think they're going to listen and then hear, but we're going to have to lowball you. We're going to have to, you may have to participate in the buyout. I mean, we may not have the NIL money you think you might need. So there's a lot there. This is not a slam dunk that they're going to get the number 1 guy out there on the market, I don't think, because of all that stuff behind the scenes.
Well, I also keep seeing these updates on Kansas where Bill Self, he personally had to text the Kansas City Star newspaper this morning saying some of this is BS. I've not made a decision yet, but he's going to retire after a while. So it's like the hypothetical. What's a better job, UNC or Kansas, for your ego, right? And it's funny when you said Roy Williams was at Kansas and went to Carolina. There's a part of me, you might disagree with me, I'd rather take the Kansas job. I would, because I'm not in the shadow of Duke. I'm not in the ACC. So I'm interested to see if that job opens up as well. And then Carolina. How about you, Chris?
It's going to open up. I can't imagine that it doesn't, because at this stage, Bill Self, he's had the health issues and hopefully he gets those under control for himself, just for the longevity of the rest of his life. And I'm sure he will, but it's a cloud hanging over Kansas basketball's head right now. You'd be remiss if you were a rival school, a rival either in the Big 12 or just nationally recruiting against him, if you didn't use that against him. Hey, is he going to be there next year? Is he going to be there in 2 years? Whatever the case may be. The one thing I can't say is I don't know Kansas's numbers well. I cover the ACC. I don't really keep up with other conferences, but I would say this: Kansas lost a guy to North Carolina. Nobody's ever going to take a job as the North Carolina basketball coach and then leave that job for a better job, because there's no better job.
That's how you're ranking them.
Yeah, that's how I'm ranking it in. Yeah.
I'm interested with the Chicago Bulls, where the story now today is Billy Donovan, the rumor mill. He's very interested in that. And look, as a guy that grew up rooting for the Bulls, go, please leave the Bulls alone. Like, please leave them alone. Go for it. So that's my question. If you're Carolina, would you take that chance? I mean, he was 2-time national champion. He's been to multiple Final Fours, I think 4 of them at Florida. Hasn't done much in the NBA. Would you take a chance on Billy Donovan if you're Carolina?
The question I would have for him, first and foremost, and it would be the first couple hours of my interview with him: How do you approach NIL? You won 2 national championships roughly 20 years ago, in a very different era of college basketball. You've been coaching in the NBA, so obviously you coach guys who get paid, but you are not the general manager. You don't have to, recruit them, sign them, keep them happy in that respect. Would you have to hire? And I think you would. You'd have to hire somebody as like either his top assistant or as a general manager, NIL type general manager, to run that side of things for him. And so, then is there a value to hiring a guy like that who has no experience in the NIL era of college basketball? X's and O's basketball? Oh, God, yeah. I mean, from the college standpoint, 20 plus years ago, or no, not 20 plus, almost 20 years ago, he won championships. He won lots of games. And he won at Oklahoma City for a while there too. So I don't know. I think I'd probably rather have a guy, if I had my choice, I'd rather have a guy who has had success in the NIL era. TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State is a name that's popping up. His buyout is doable for North Carolina. It's a $4 million buyout. He's won at Iowa State in the NIL era. And if I were Carolina, I'd look at a guy like that and say, what if we gave him North Carolina resources? What could he do here? Because he's done great at Iowa State. He would have a chance to do even better here.
I kind of like Nate Oates at Alabama. And I saw this morning the buyout goes down at April 1st. I mean, think he's at Alabama, one of the premier football schools. Basketball's an afterthought, and he's constantly getting them deep in the tournament. They're still alive right now. That's another name I would look at.
His buyout goes down, but it's still $10 million, I think, after April 1st or whatever the contract year. I think it's April 1st. And that's a lot for a school that's losing money. Again, they can pass the hat around. They do have not just Michael Jordan. I mean, a school like North Carolina, I cover Virginia. We're schools that have people who've done well on Wall Street, who've done well in the business world, Michael Jordan has done great. There are people who write much bigger checks than even Michael Jordan can ever imagine. And Carolina has those alums too. It's just a matter of, getting them excited to write those checks. I think that they could do a Nate Oates. I mean, what I like about Nate Oates and his approach is he's a very modern analytical coach. He was one of the first in the last 5 years to really embrace analytics, has a guy on staff that does, is pure analytics. He's totally molded his game, his recruiting, everything, his coaching style, X's and O's, everything to maximizing potential, maximizing the opportunities. Give him the resources of a Carolina, and certainly he would do well. And, but he would be going from one football mad school to one that aspires to be a football mad school. Carolina thinks they're a football school because they hired Bill Belichick.
What's interesting with what you were bringing up about Belichick, at least with Donovan, hey, he coached college and won, then went to the pros. Yeah. Again, in hindsight, Belichick never did college. No. Never. Why would they think it's such a disaster.
The guy he hired to be his general manager, Mike Lombardi, remember he was doing interviews this time last year saying, oh, yeah, we're going to be the NFL's 33rd team because we're going to do all these things. And then you start looking at their recruiting, and they're recruiting against, against group of 5 schools for FCS guys. Either they were, seeing things that no one else saw in those players, or they were recruiting a 4-8 team. And as it turns out, they recruited a 4-8 team.
Well, they also recruited, how many players came in? 50? Whatever it was, like you can't just turn over a whole roster.
Well, okay. Everybody does that now. They recruited 70. Now, so 50 wouldn't be bad because your roster is like 100 until I guess it's this year the rules take effect, and you have to be like 105. Last year, you could still have 120. 50 out of 120 wasn't so bad. Virginia, for example, the school that I cover, had 54 newcomers and won 11 games. They had over 70. They ran a bunch of guys off. And it's not the number, it's the quality. They did have quality. They didn't have, just like I was saying about Billy Donovan, they had all NFL guys, doing their talent evaluations. The trick now is you have your GM staff, your general manager, your front office staff, either for football or basketball. They're watching games all year long. They're doing their tabulations every week. This is their full-time job. and they're doing it during the season so that when the season ends and the portal opens up, they're ready. You bring in a group of people who've not done that, and they're all NFL guys. 4-8 is going to happen. 4-8 is probably pretty good for what they got.
All right. The clock says we've been talking for 20 minutes. Is this the long you've ever talked to Carolina athletics in your life?
I think what I've discovered is I should probably write more about Carolina basketball because, it's ACC basketball. Carolina, Duke, Virginia have been the three dominant powers in the last 15 years in ACC basketball. If I'm going to write about Virginia well, I got to write about Duke and Carolina well. And so, maybe I need to develop a side business writing about Carolina basketball.
No, you don't. I love the insight you taught me today where they have no money. I love it. Somehow, everyone has money, but they don't have money. That's 2026 in a nutshell for the whole country. It's exactly what it is. It makes no sense whatsoever. All right. You went to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. You did. Did you see the Rocky statue? That's all I care about. Did you see it?
No, I did not.
Oh, what happened?
The day off in between. Okay, so the school that I cover, Virginia, I keep mentioning that. A lot of schools' media relations departments. You assume if you're out there and watching this, listening to this. Oh yeah, you get to interview players all the time. You get to do one-on-one interviews all the time. Not at Virginia. They bring out a couple of players, sit them up on a table, 20 people ask them questions for like 2 minutes, and that's it. But in the NCAA tournament, this is when it's weird, and this is why I like to go. They actually the NCAA says you got to open your locker room and you got to let them talk whoever they want to talk to. You can't just handle the act. So on the Saturday between games, when I was going to go to see the Rocky statue, there's an open media session. I get time to go talk to players for the first time all season long, and I do that. And all of a sudden I've got all these videos to produce. By the time I'm done with all these, it's like 9:00 at night. So no, I let work take over my day. And so no Rocky statue. Mark, the bad thing here is the only cheesesteak I had was from the concession stand at the arena.
How was it?
It was great. I can't imagine how good they would be out in the world because the concession stand Philly cheesesteak was great.
Did you literally take the train up to Philadelphia, go to the arena, and just stay there for 3 days? Is that what happened?
The hotel was right across the road from the arena. So I was either in the hotel, which my window opened up and looked at the arena, or I was in the arena. Yeah, for 4 days, actually.
Was this just the 76ers basketball arena? Is that where you were
Sixers and Flyers, yeah. The first day I was there, I sat up in the balcony, the sixth floor. There's a lot of media overflow, so I got to sit on the floor on Sunday. But on Friday, I was up in the rafters, and I felt like I could reach out and touch those Stanley Cup banners.
You were up top.
I was up top. Oh, yeah. If they were doing that T-shirt drop they do at arenas a lot, they would have asked me to drop the T-shirts.
Well, I'm very jealous. I'm usually at the Kia Center for the Magic. There are no rafters. Okay, I'm sorry to say that. I feel bad. There is a 95 conference champions and an 09 conference champions. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. Then there is, all right, their jersey retirement, which I never understand. So they have the 6-man. You get it? 6-man, the fans are retired. And then Shaq 32. That's it. There's no other. It's not good.
I didn't realize because I was sitting directly across from on the other side of the arena were the Sixers banners, but right in front of me were the Flyers banners. And I did not realize that the Flyers have only won the 2 Stanley Cups, and we're talking 50 years ago. So I can see why Flyers fans would be really frustrated in that sense.
Okay, can I do this off the top of my head? This is very important information everyone needs to know. So the Sixers, what have they won? 2001, they went to the conference. Oh, yeah, they went to the NBA Finals with Iverson.
Yeah.
Iverson's jersey is probably retired, probably with Charles Barkley, Moses Malone. And is that about it?
Julius Erving.
Okay.
Dr. J. They won a few titles in the 80s with the Dr. J, Moses Malone, Mo Cheeks group.
82 or 83, I think they won the NBA championship.
Yeah, 83. They won they lost one playoff game the whole run. But it's been a while for them too. But the Flyers were 73 and 74. I was 2 years old in 74, and I'm not young, so that's not good. That's how long ago that is for them.
Yeah, they were in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2010, and my Blackhawks beat them, and I take great pride in that.
Oh, there you go.
So there we go. That's last time we were probably good. So, all right, we've learned a lot. You were there at the 2 games. The team you cover, Virginia, they're out. A lot of teams are out. My Gators are out. Is your bracket completely busted now?
Oh yeah. And I'm not. I am like you in this sense. I overanalyze. I watch too much and I overanalyze, and so I was out like a few hours into day 1. So I mean, I don't. I put too much stock into my ability to read analytics, and I'm not as far as I think I am. So that's okay.
Yes, you are. Come on, you are. All right, then here's the better question. Here with Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. You talked about High Point winning round 1. We still get the Cinderellas to win round 1. Then it looks like they all get knocked out by round 2.
Yeah.
It is all mega powers, if we're going to use a wrestling term. Even Texas, I'm sorry, unlimited budget. They're an 11 seed. They're better than that. Is that good for the sport where there's no more Cinderellas here in the Sweet 16?
Probably, the years that we have a Loyola Chicago get there, there's fun. I mean, the nun who was a big fan was a fun story, but I like. I mean, I don't want to all chalk all number 1 seed Final Four necessarily, and we're not going to have that this year.
No,
but I like the marquee match. I mean, from the TV standpoint. Okay, so my team's out, and for a lot of folks, I mean, there's only 16 teams left. So for most folks listening, watching this, our teams are out. So I want somebody to root against. So I've got Duke to root against, right? And from a fan standpoint, and so, yeah, I mean, you can't, if Duke's already out, well, who do I root against now? What rooting interest do I have? So keeping as many marquee names in as possible is probably good just in general, because, we can either root for somebody or root against somebody. And most of us are going to have somebody to root against. Like it's like in the Major League Baseball playoffs. If the Yankees are still playing, I got somebody to root against. If the Cowboys are still in the NFL playoffs, hey, there's somebody for me to root against. So, and it's weird because at the same time, you want them to lose. So like, I want them to lose, but I also want them to keep winning so I can root against them next time. I think if you have a Cinderella, that's somebody you can all root for. But then, I don't care if, Loyola Chicago wins. I kind of, as a guy, okay, for your listeners out there who Florida fans and me, a Virginia guy, I don't want Loyola Chicago to win the national championship, because that's just like, oh, Loyola could win, but your team couldn't. So there's a conflicting kind of feeling there for me too.
I'm kind of sad. I've always wanted to see the Cinderella win the national title. They've come close. You bring up some of these teams that made Final Fours. It's over. They got no shot now, because if they have great players, those players are going to leave. They're going. We saw this with Florida Atlantic a couple years ago, make the Final Four, and then it just jump. It's not going to happen. It's
not
over.
even just the players. The coaches leave too. The coaches, Dusty May is like, hey, Michigan wants me. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, that's I said this when we were talking last week, Mark. I mean, these NCAA tournament games for the mid-majors against the big schools are like, hey, that guy played well against us this year. We should get him to be on our team next year. That you couldn't do that years ago. Now you can do that. These are meat markets as much as anything else.
See, we've discussed this in the past. That's why there's really no more spring games in college football, because the coaches don't really want to show their players in spring, because then there's a transfer portal and they can leave after a while. It's the problem.
No, yeah, you don't. You want to hide your good talent. So we made the tournament. You better, if you're a Cinderella and you make the tournament, you better win it now, because they're all, even if they win it, they're all gone in a couple weeks.
You're absolutely right. All right, the 2 games I'm excited for, right? But I don't want to stay up till 1:00 in the morning to watch the end of them on a school night. I'm excited for Arkansas versus Arizona, which I think is a great game. And then the other one, Illinois and Houston. Like they sound like their Final Four matchups.
Yeah.
Are you, as a hater, we just learned this about you, is you just like just someone beat Duke? Is that the game you're going to be watching this weekend?
Well, Duke St. John's, right? But so the hard part there is St. John's is coached by Rick Pitino. And so, I mean, I kind of want them both to lose. And unfortunately, they both can't lose. So I guess I'd be rooting for Duke there just so I can root against them the next time, because I actually, Duke, I've come to respect, especially this team this year. I think we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
John Shire has his team playing defense, and so it's not just one and dones, roll the ball out there and go play the best basketball you can. They're actually playing good basketball. So there's still the visceral hatred of the Duke brand that's never going to go away from me, but I like the way they play basketball. So maybe it will be good for me to see, the team that I hate. I would love to see them get to the championship game and they get blown out so that, they can suffer as much as possible. Losing in the Sweet 16 to St. John's to a slithery, slimy Rick Pitino, it wouldn't be as satisfying.
Yeah. Okay. Rick Pitino and John Calipari, I think they've taken their aura to another level. All right, if it was like Major League Baseball where you go to the Hall of Fame and you got to wear a team cap, who are those two affiliated with? Is Pitino? What is he exactly? I don't even know. Like Calipari, is he Kentucky? What is he now? Are they just above it all?
Yeah, because he left Kentucky under not a cloud. He left because they were going to fire him. Yeah. But then they were both Kentucky guys, and then Pitino, he coaches Kentucky, then he goes to Louisville, like the bitter rival. So the Kentucky base hates him, but then the Louisville base hates him because he was there, and then they had a national championship taken away because he was so slimy. So they don't want him. Maybe Iona for him, and then maybe UMass for Calipari.
It's the weirdest because they're like Coach K is Duke, right? Like he is your boy Tony Bennett, Virginia. There's all these guys. You know what I mean? Those two guys, no legacy. They're just part of the sport. But no affiliation.
Roy Williams. I call him Old Roy because that's what, Old Roy. He would be the one because he was successful and won a championship at Kansas and successful and won a couple of championships at Carolina. He's going to be a Carolina guy because he was a Carolina grad and he was a student assistant there and that kind of thing. But, he was successful and both sides would revere him. These other guys, Calipari and everybody that they've been associated with hates them. So,
it's great. Look, you know what it is? It's great for wrestling. That's what that sounds like right there. They're great heels. Can they somehow team up? Would that be the greatest? Where they're co-coaches for some newer school?
You just dropped the Mega Powers name, boy. There's a Mega Powers kind of situation there.
You got to do the handshake, and that handshake. I watched that clip yesterday. The handshake is phenomenal. All time promos. They're just, are you for real? Hulk Hogan, like Mean Gene is just incredible. Are you for real? You two are going to team up, and people's minds are blown that this was going to happen. Okay.
I miss those days. Yeah.
Dude, I saw, if we're going to do this, I'm going to send it to you and I will post it on my Facebook page. I saw randomly a old Conan O'Brien clip from 1999 where Goldust shows up as a guest on the program. It is an all-timer. You talk about being in the gimmick and you are Goldust. And he doesn't come back from the curtain. He comes down from the audience in full getup, and then he's hitting on Conan and keeps calling him Mr. Barbarian. It is the fact that Mr. Rhodes does not start laughing. It's an amazing interview. I have to show it to you.
And I have actually worked with Dustin. He in my days in the world of wrestling as a writer and things of that nature, working with a company that put on a pay-per-view. And Dustin he's a good old boy Texan. But when he put on that Goldust persona, he was Goldust.
It's amazing. It is. And I love in some of the comments someone wrote, this is one of the dumbest gimmicks you will ever see, but this guy pulled it off. He really did. It's amazing. The fact that you stay in character, you got to give, these guys are amazing athletes and actors for what they did. And Conan has no idea. And I say this because you host shows, you interview people all the time, just like I do.
Yeah.
There's this moment as a host, you're in control of where everything goes. And you can see Conan's eyes. He doesn't know what's happening in the moment. It's brilliant. It is.
Yeah, and we can identify with that. I've only had a couple of those, but you know, and especially live.
Oh,
No, but that character of all that might be the best all time character because it's so hard to do. And again, maybe I even have different insight because I've talked to Dustin, the real guy, and he. Oh my god, I just can't. The verve because the independent show we put on, he became Goldust for that show.
It's awesome.
And you know, but he's also the beer drinking 6'4", 250-pound Texas redneck in the backstage.
That's the other part. I'm happy you bring this up. He's gigantic.
Yes.
Person. He is. All right. Speaking of wrestling, that was a good segue. Good job, Mark. All right. I looked it up. So WrestleMania coming up in Las Vegas. It's interesting. It's usually like first weekend in April. It's not. It's like April 19th. It's around that weekend.
Yeah.
You know what it is? Easter, Passover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly what it is. So I went to Ticketmaster. Cheapest ticket. Okay, so night 2, the big night, Sunday night. I saw resale tickets, 300 level, 226 a ticket before taxes and fees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's where the Raiders play pretty much. Yeah. So there is a 400 level. So, you know, probably 230, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you're all the way up there, all the way looking at the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
By the ring right now, a couple $1,000.
Easy.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you even excited for WrestleMania? And I want to preface this. He is P1. Okay. Like you say in radio, P1 listener, you are a wrestling fanatic. Mm-hmm. Are you excited for WrestleMania?
No, I mean the one match, yes, and just because the only match that really intrigues me at all from a fan standpoint, where I would watch it and say I don't know who's going to win, and I like that about a wrestling match that you don't know who's going to win, would be the Punk Reigns match. You know, and you know, I don't even know who I'd root for in that match from the standpoint of just kayfabe. You know, like just not thinking about implications or anything else. Just all right, these two guys are wrestling. I'm not thinking about anything else. I just want to see who wins between these two guys. But outside of that, it's not been a very good build this year. And because, I mean, to be fair to WWE, lots of injuries have thrown things off. Braun Breaker's not going to be involved. Bronson Reed's not going to be involved. You know, there's key guys that, you know, you had to shuffle things as a result of all that. I don't like, and then they booked themselves into a corner. I don't like how they booked, you know, the Cody Rhodes side of things here. You know, they really kind of flubbed that, to say the least. So no, but you know, that one match, I mean, that, you know, the problem I would have would be sitting through the entire Sunday show to get to that one match. I mean, what I may end up doing is just kind of following social media to see where the matches are. So I don't have to sit through, because WWE pay-per-views these days, you know, they have a few matches and they have long breaks in between with commercials and filler. And I kind of don't, you know, I don't want to spend a whole night watching commercials and filler to get to one really good match. So that's the problem I've got with WWE presentation right now.
All right, who wins that match? If
I'm putting it myself, you know,
I love your face.
Because
I love you. Really, this is the most important question I've been asked all day.
Oh, this is much bigger than who wins the, you know, how we do with the Iran war or anything else. Yeah. No, but yeah, how would I do? I think they're probably going to give it to Roman Reigns. I would give it to, because he's a part-time wrestler, I would go with Punk. And put Punk over and let him run with it for a while with a win over Roman Reigns and give him a winning streak for a while. But I tend to think that they're probably going to go with Reigns just because send the fans home happy. Now, I say that I don't really know how they're booking this in terms of who's babyface or heel. They've both been a little bit of both in the walk up to this.
Roman Reigns needs to be a heel. That's when he was like the most popular.
Yeah.
The last couple of years. He needs the belt. He does. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like, and I always felt this way about wrestling, it gets popular in pop culture, then it goes away, and it's more just for wrestling fans. And I feel like right now were more just the hardcore fans. They don't have. I know they could bring up all this social media and we're doing no. It doesn't feel like it's crossing over right now. I am at that impression now, kind of like in the early 2000s when Stone Cold kind of came to an end and The Rock became a movie star and then John Cena showed up. I kind of feel like this is one of those moments where there is a younger guy that can become the face of the franchise, because Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody, all these guys are in their 40s. Yeah. All of them. Don't you feel like we have to somehow get some of the next generation guys to become stars now?
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. That John Cena in 2003, I think 2003 was when Stone Cold had his injury and decided to finally retire. The Rock was going into movies. That was a year after his match at Mania with Hogan that stole that show. Even though it wasn't the main event. But John Cena was on his way up. Even CM Punk was still in Ring of Honor, but he was ready to become a star in a few years. I think we're looking at guys like Braun Breaker, who won't be on the show because of injury. Javon Evans is another guy that looks like a guy who will be a breakout star if they work him right, and also he just doesn't get unlucky and get injured or anything like that. We're looking for that guy though, and you're sort of in a transition period in that sense. And what you probably need to do in the meantime is don't rush those guys. Continue. I think Braun Breaker's ready to take off as soon as he gets back, as soon as he's 100% healthy. Next year's WrestleMania should be his. Athletically, everything else, that guy, he's got the look, he's got the pedigree, he's got everything about him. He should be the guy. Javon Evans has his work style. He's so exciting to watch. He's a different guy, very much different guy than Braun Breaker, but so exciting to watch. Got charisma out the yin yang. So he's another guy to build around. He might be a couple years away still from being ready to take over, but he's in that mix. And so what you do is you use your older guys, keep them built up enough so that when these young guys are ready to beat one of them or, a couple of them in main events at a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, those wins mean something. And so they're not just beating another jabroni, they're beating, CM Punk or Roman Reigns. And then they pass the torch, take it, and run with it themselves. I think that's the stage WWE's in right now.
The older I get, I understand when we were in the 90s and guys like Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man, I love those guys. They were never going to leave the WWE. Unless they were pushed out, which they were, they would have been 65 years old saying we're still the top guys and you have to pass it to the next generation. I'm sorry. You have to have. And even The Rock and Stone Cold got old and you got to pass it. What's weird in all of that? I see younger people don't know this. So Brock Lesnar was supposed to be in early 2000s, like the next big thing. Yeah. And then he's like, I'm going to go try out for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
I never played football. I'm going to try out for the Vikings. Doesn't make the team. And then what does he do? Just go straight to UFC? Like, it's a weird timeline with him in all that. Yeah.
Yeah. He was such a natural wrestler because he was an NCAA champion amateur wrestler. But they found out in training camp, they sent him to Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, where guys like him and Randy Orton and a bunch of guys came out of a few graduating classes there in the early 2000s. John Cena, as mega stars, they found out, this guy who is this incredible technical wrestler can also he's also a sports entertainer. He only did it a couple times because he also almost broke his neck doing it one time, but he could do moonsaults from the top rope. This 6'5", 260 pounds. Amazing ground, mat wrestler can do all this stuff in the air. He was a freak of nature, and then he decides to play nose tackle.
And it just shows you could be Superman, but if you don't have grow up with a football pedigree, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah,
well, the Rock. The Rock becomes a wrestler because he couldn't cut it in the CFL.
No, you can ask Warren Sapp. He'll tell you every 5 minutes about that story. Yeah. Because Ohio Valley Wrestling was Sheldon Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, Batista, Cena. Oh my! Can you imagine you went to that house show, dude? Insane.
I have watched some of those because those are still on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube. Jim Cornette was the trainer, and then he was also the announcer, the legendary manager and now podcaster, Jim Cornette. And I mean, yeah, imagine you're just at like the Louisville Fairgrounds. There's 500 people at a house show. And then you're watching these guys and saying, hey, I think they're pretty good. They might be stars one day. They're all main eventing WrestleManias for the next 20 years. And you were watching them in the middle of nowhere.
And some of them are in movies.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, so I met Bron Breakker. I had him on the phone first time. Then when I met him in person, I know you've shown the photos. Dude, he could take me and throw me like a rag doll. Oh, yeah. Like, you see in like old Mighty Python type movies. Like, just throw me like a rag doll. But what's funny is other wrestlers who are now on the main roster were insecure around Bron Breakker because it's the genetics. You can't. Yeah. It's so. And you know what's else? You know what's funny about that? He was a small college football player. Yes. Went to a small school. He couldn't cut it.
He was an FCS football player who got a cup of coffee in training camp with the Baltimore Ravens. And then in wrestling, he is just a beast.
He's a great guy. And all right, I'll end with this, and I appreciate coming on today. I saw a random clip. I know you're just like me. The algorithm is the same on YouTube for both of us, just random interview clips. I saw a clip with Mark Miro where he's discussing when he finds out that Brock Lesnar is now with his wife. Sable. All right. Imagine the scenario. Your woman's leaving you for another man. Who is the other man? Brock Lesnar. What are you going to do? Did you see the clip? Did you see this clip the other day where the Reacher guy's beating up his neighbor?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do here? What is this?
We all envisioned that. Yeah, we'll fight for our woman. Wait, Brock Lesnar? Oh, God.
Brock Lesnar. Okay. And he's not just a fake wrestler. No, this guy's a UFC heavyweight champion as well. I thought of that the first time when I was in college and we're at Bears training camp. And my buddy Jason and I walked by Brian Urlacher. It's one of those first moments where you're like, okay, I don't think I could be an action star anytime soon. It's not going to happen.
Bobby Lashley, who's now in AEW, a longtime WWE guy, also MMA fighter. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if my manager signs me, signs a contract for me to be in a match in an octagon and then I walk out and then Lashley's music plays and he comes out and he's my opponent. Okay, I'm tapping, you're
out
because he looks like that and he can also fight. Like he doesn't just look like that. He's also I'm good. Thank you. I might be a good technical wrestler or whatever, but no Taekwondo is going to work on that guy.
Well, that's why we're going to get Oba versus Brock Lesnar. And Oba is the nicest guy behind the scenes. The nicest shot putter, I think, at Alabama in college.
Okay.
Nicest guy. Look, I met him. We're talking, and he's like, oh, Mark, thank you. Like, I think that was his first ever interview he's ever done. And there's a lot of people like that in the industry. His mother follows me still on Instagram, okay? And she'll like my post. That's right. So I'm going with Oba over Brock Lesnar. That's what I'm doing.
That's your high point over Wisconsin reason. Like Oba Femi's mom still likes your post on social media. So yeah.
They're great. I hope they're watching this. Okay. And the best is, so Oba and I follow each other on Instagram. So it's funny. You see me like at MegaCon where we're at some comic book convention, and then you'll see seen by Oba. That's right. When he's done kicking butt in the ring, he's checking my profile out.
Hey, I can't claim the same. So you got me there. I got to work on that part of my game.
Chris Graham, I got some free press. My man, thanks for your help. Have a great day. All right.
Thanks, man. Take care.